So, the ending of an epic 6-part story. Did it stick the landing? Yes, and also no. Hi, I'm Phil, welcome to my channel where I like to talk about all the geeky pop culture that I like and consume, things like the MCU, things like Red Dwarf, and things like Doctor Who, and we are at the end of Flux. That's it now. 6 episodes, it's whizzed by, and now it is over. So we can finally talk about the story as a whole, and did it work? Which bits of it did it work, which bits of it didn't? Because it very rarely with something like this is it all one or nothing. It's never completely black and white. It very rarely completely didn't work or completely did. And there are elements of this that I think worked really well as a whole serialized story, and there are elements which have left us thinking, well, what was the point of that bit? And left me at least thinking, what was the point of that bit? Why do that? Are these questions ever going to be answered? But there was also some nice resolutions in there as well. So, let's talk about it. Spoilers ahead, everyone, if you haven't seen it. Now, one thing we've gotten throughout Flux is some absolutely stellar cliffhangers with some brilliant moments. I mean, the best, I think, was the Doctor being turned to stone, as it turns out, for transport. But that cliffhanger at the end of that Weeping Angels episode was fantastic. And the episode, the cliffhanger at the end of the last week's episode was left us on. It wasn't quite as good, but it was still an interesting cliffhanger. What's going to happen next? Tectayun had been dissolved. The Swarm's hand was about to touch the Doctor. What would happen next? I mean, we knew that she was going to get out of it, but how? The flip side of that is that the resolutions to all of these cliffhangers haven't always been the best. They've sometimes been a bit quick and kind of like fluffed over, like, oh yeah, don't worry about that, we'll get over that in 2 seconds, and then we, won't mention it again. What I like about what they did here is, yeah, she did quickly duck out of the way. That's fine. But then she does actually get touched by Swarm. But in the meantime, between her ducking out of the way the first time and actually being touched by Swarm and starting to dissolve, she works out what a plan of action, and that is to take herself out of where she is by removing the badge thing that she's got on that keeps her there, so that will send her back to the universe. And it just so happens that as she does it at the moment Swarm touches her, that it splits her into 3. So the repercussions of that cliffhanger, even though it's slightly delayed and we get a little bit in between, do play out throughout the whole episode to some quite amusing and dramatic consequences, I thought. I really liked the whole splitting of the Doctor into 3 different sort of aspects and in 3 locations at once, and then getting to meet herself as well. The interactions there were really good. So I think this is actually one of the better resolutions of the cliffhangers, because it actually impacts the whole story. We do also get to see the house again, and it appears to be just a metaphor for all her past lives, everything that's in the watch, everything she can't remember, and Swarm kind of torments her by starting to dissolve it and her in one of her forms, but then reverses it. And this is something that I don't think we knew he could do, that once he starts dissolving something, he can then pull it back again, sort of reversing time. And he utilizes it here as a torture technique for her, and plans apparently to use it for the Flux later on, to keep reliving it and keep seeing the death of the universe and making the Doctor witness it again and again. It's an interesting plan. It's kind of come out of nowhere. I don't think we ever had any hint that this was their plan or that these were his powers before, that he could reverse it. But I think it kind of works. Now, I still say that the house could still be Lungbarrow. That could still be all our headcanon, that the visual representation of that house, yes, it's a metaphor for all of her memories, but maybe that visual metaphor took on that form because it's her family home. I'm just sticking that in my headcanon. But by splitting up, she does reunite with basically all the different groups. She reunites, first of all, with Carvanista and meets Bell on his ship getting attacked by Sontarans, first of all. And we get through that to learn, well, actually after they're captured by the Sontarans, we get to learn a bit more about their history together, because as we saw in Once Upon a Time, they used to be on a team for the division together, and it sort of transpires that they are kind of, he was her companion, and actually he feels a bit betrayed by her and abandoned by her. But also, he can't tell her anything about her past and with the division, because he has a chip in his head that means that if he does, instant death. So that explains why he's been avoiding her so much and has that resentment against her, that he's always seemed to dislike her from where we've seen, and that's because they were once friends and he feels abandoned by her. But he can't really tell her much more than this, can't tell her about the history, which is admittedly convenient. But hey, he's still out there. Maybe one day we can get over that. We'll talk more about the Doctor's memories in a minute. We also get a lovely reunion with Yaz when the Doctor appears in the tunnels, where Yaz, Jericho and Dan are, and it turns out Kate Stewart is there as well, with the TARDIS, so happy convenience once again, but she's manning the resistance against the Sontaran occupation, and has apparently, she mentions agents, so she's got some kind of network going on, some kind of underground rogue unit, as it were, but there's no official reforming of unit here. But that's another thing that confused me, because we have last episode, the flashbacks to 2017 unit getting disbanded, but then in the 2021 scenes from last year, Prentice, aka the Grand Serpent, is still in a HQ with unit logos all over it, and communicating with his moles within there with the serpent logo on his followers, that also have unit like badges on and uniforms on. So does unit still exist or not? I'm in 2021. I'm a little bit confused about that. I don't think that was particularly clear. But I don't think it's been officially, certainly not with Kate back in charge, reformed yet. I say yet because I think it probably will be by the time of the specials, or in the specials. But the reunion in the tunnel with Yaz in particular was lovely. That was that moment when she asks how long it's been, and Yaz says years. There's a kind of quiet, just like, look between the two of them, which I think said a lot, and it was kind of, yeah, it's been tough. It kind of said it all with a look. It's been tough. I've missed you. I'm sorry that I was away for that long again. And then kind of already a bit of, like, from Yaz, a feeling of it's okay. And just like all of that in one look. It was great acting by the both of them. A very touching moment. The third version of her is back at Division with the Ood and Azure and Swarm. So they're kind of, that's when they're, giving them explaining the plan to basically let the Flux destroy the universe again, then reverse it, then let it destroy it again, then reverse it, and just keep doing that to torture the Doctor and get their final revenge. And also take her to be sacrificed to Atropos, to their saviour, as they call it, time itself, the embodiment of time. It's all a bit vague here, and this is one of the whole Azure and Swarm thing. I don't know why I'm always saying Azure first now. I think I'm going alphabetically. Azure and Swarm thing. I don't know. I don't really get... I mean, they're great. They have great presence on screen. But I don't think they really delved into what they're about enough. Just a kind of vague, we worship time, time is against space. And at the end we meet this embodiment of time, which initially takes the form of Swarm, and it's all just a bit kind of there's a lot of unanswered questions there, and I don't know if we're going to get those answers in the specials. I kind of feel like the Swarm and Azure stuff is done. We might return to this embodiment of time thing. I don't know. That feels like one of the weaker points that just left me a little bit disappointed with these villains, who I have loved throughout, and like I say, their presence has been great. I just kind of wish we'd found out a bit more about them. There were some great Sontaran moments in this. There were both really good, like, Sontarans being strategic battle war machine type people who, you know, barking commands and all that sort of stuff, that kind of side of it, but also some good comedy as well. I loved the bit in the corner shop where the Doctor finds a Sontaran general who's kind of raided a corner shop because he's addicted to chocolate. Apparently the Sontarans get easily addicted to chocolate and therefore can be manipulated by that. I don't know. Some people might find that a bit too silly. I found it quite amusing. So that was a fun little Sontaran bit in the episode. And I do like the Sontarans' plans. It makes sense from the Sontarans' perspective. They're trying to work out when exactly the final Flux event will happen and where. And they do that. And so they basically trick the Daleks and the Cybermen into coming to Earth, saying they've got this protection around Earth, the Lupari shield, because they've killed all the Lupari apart from Carbonista, so he's now the last of his species. I thought that was a touching moment, and I hope we get to see him again as well, to see how this carries on affecting him. It'd be good to see him in one of the specials, maybe. But so they offer a sort of truce with the Cybermen and the Daleks. Come to us, come behind this shield in Earth and we'll protect you. But what they actually do at the very end is open up the shield. They've gone further back. So they lure them behind the shield, and just as the Flux is about to hit, break up the shield and I assume reform it maybe where they are. I didn't follow once again had some noisy kids in the room, so didn't follow it completely, but I liked their plan, and it destroys the Daleks and Cybermen. Again, I'm presuming this is going to be reversed somehow. I'm not sure what the state of the universe is going to be after this, because, again, that wasn't made particularly clear. They stopped it, but what's the state of the universe at large? I don't know. One of the Doctors takes the TARDIS team back to pick up Claire from that village, so the one that sort of was possessed by a weeping angel. She's fine now, no weeping angel in her head now, but she's, because she's got these psychic sort of abilities, the Doctor wants to use her to send her into the Sontarans along with Jericho to find out when this Flux event is going to happen, using whatever methods they're going to use anyway. So they're kind of like inside people there. And, you know, those scenes were quite good. We got some really good stuff from Jericho. Let's talk about the ending with Jericho, because that really he got some absolutely fantastic moments in this episode as well. I love Jericho. So sad to see him go, but I do kind of, I did work. It worked really well, and it was probably the most heart-wrenching moment of the episode, seeing Jericho go, because his time ring slips off his finger, and so he can't escape when they're meant to, not time ring, teleportation ring. And he buys Claire the time he says go to Claire while he sort of fires on the Sontarans entering the room. But his transport ring gets destroyed, and he has to basically goes down with the ship, down with the Sontarans. But he has some absolutely fantastic moments in those fast few moments, standing up proud to the Sontarans, and much like he had in that Weeping Angels episodes when he was facing off against the Angels, that kind of bravery that he has was really great to see, and the actor did a fantastic job. Such a brave end for him, and a fantastic moment. I really hope that at some point we get a Big Finish box set with him, Dan and Yaz travelling the world in those 3 years, just because I want more Jericho. Now let's talk about the Grand Serpent. Because I have some issues there, but I also have some good stuff. The good stuff. Let's start with the good stuff. So the Doctor is captured by one of these three split Doctors is caught by the Sontarans, and then brought for interrogation by the Grand Serpent. And that whole confrontation was so electric, and Jodie was on absolutely top form in this scene. One of the best scenes I've seen her deliver against, like, a villain. She was funny and scathing at exactly the same time, and it worked so well. There was a line, I can't remember what the exact line was, but there was a line where he's saying, "You can call me the Grand Serpent," and she's like mocking him and going, "What, your parents call you that, did they? Oh, little oh, look, there goes little Grand Serpent." It was just like the look on her face as well. It wasn't played over the top comedy. It was comedy, but like it was just, as I said, electric between the two of them. And there was some hints there, I think, about that made me think that my theory, I made a theory video about it potentially being Rassilon. Well, there were a few alternate suggestions in that video. Go check it out if you haven't already, that he might be Rassilon. That was my main one. And I still think it might be possible, you know. Some of the things that the Doctor was saying and deducing about him, former dictator, exiled, you know, these are things that she was just kind of working out about him from how he was acting and things. And it was really good. And I was kind of expecting them to do a big reveal there and then that it maybe was Rassilon. Or if not Rassilon, someone else. And it didn't come. And after that scene, the rest of his scenes, well, that scene was brilliant, kind of went out with a whimper. He went to try and track down Kate and ended up just getting captured. And then the whole team make him walk through one of the tunnel doors out onto an asteroid in the middle of space, and then they lock the door behind him, so he's just trapped on an asteroid in the middle of space. Now, obviously, that leaves it open for him to come back. We may find out some of these aren't more answers about who he is. Then, maybe he is still someone. Maybe that's going to be in one of the specials. But I just feel like there weren't enough answers about him, and he was great when we first met him with Vinder. He was great in that one scene this episode, but I kind of felt the whole him infiltrating Earth, letting the Sontarans in, kind of whimpered out a little bit. And without that big reveal there to make it... I mean, the Doctor does say to him, "Oh, I bet your plan is to, like, betray the Sontarans at the end and leave you as the saviour of Earth. And then you will have a new domain to rule over and everybody will be grateful." And I kind of assumed that was what his plan was. Regardless, even if he was Rassilon, I kind of assumed that what his plan was, that he wasn't just working for the Sontarans. But you never got to see him betray the Sontarans, or even start to implement his plan to betray the Sontarans. So it kind of fell a bit of a dud at the end there on his storyline, which is a shame. Let's see if he pops up in one of the specials, if he's going to get some kind of reprisal, if we're going to get any more answers about him. Otherwise, it's just a shame, because he was great in the role. The actor was great in the role. Just kind of feel like it kind of petered out a bit, his storyline at the end there. Talking of things petering out, both the Claire and the Vinder story, which had obviously combined last week when they were both in Passenger, also kind of just has felt a little bit petered out, or never really got going. Like, when Vinder's most interesting bit was when he was Once Upon a Time, where we found out his history. We found out, you know, what kind of person he was, that he would stand up for fight against injustice and corruption and suffer the consequences for it. But, you know, he did what he thought was right, and he's that kind of person. And that was a fantastic episode for Vinder. But again, I don't think they really did anything massive with him afterwards. I did like, it was a nice moment where he got to reunite with Belle. That was lovely. They've been searching for each other. And it was a double reunion as well, because Diane got to reunite with Dan as well. Lovely moment when they, in the TARDIS, that happens. It just doesn't go anywhere. And Diane just kind of, again, there was no reason why she got captured in the first place. Why they, you know, Azure lured her into that house and said, "We're going to have some fun with you." It was never explored why that she was picked like that. Was it just because they knew that Dan was travelling with the Doctor and she was friends with Dan? I don't know. Maybe. So, yeah, I think both of those storylines kind of weren't as impactful as I was expecting them to be. And then Diane, at the end, once they've solved everything and saved the universe, Diane says to Dan, when he asks her out for that drink again, basically turns him down, says no, doesn't want to drink with him anymore, doesn't want to go on a date with him anymore. Which is a bit sad. I mean, it leaves him open to travelling with the Doctor more, which is good, but yeah. So I don't know. I don't get the point of Diane, because there was a point where we were exploring Dan's guilt, but that seemed to be in the wrong place because he didn't know Diane had been captured by that point. So it must have just been guilt about being late and not arriving for his date, I guess. So I don't know. It didn't serve much purpose in Dan's character, and it just kind of fizzled out. And sadly, I want to say the same with Vinder. I did really enjoy Jacob Anderson's portrayal of Vinder. It was great, and it was definitely a good portrayal. It was interesting to watch. He was always charismatic on screen and things. I would happily see more of him. I would just like something a bit more for him to do. Also, the baby wasn't anybody important, wasn't the doctor. Just a baby. They're just having a baby, guys. That's fine. They can just have a baby. Not everything has to be a big connected thing. That's fine. They're having a baby. Going back to when the Doctor is being tortured by the Grand Serpent, she actually escapes by being rescued by herself. As I said, she's been split up into 3 different elements of herself. She's rescued by one of the other elements of herself, which is great. And I like the interaction between the 2 versions of herself. Their sort of banter between each other. A little bit of flirting there as well. She says she has a crush on herself. A little bit of flirting, a little bit of banter. So it's a nice little relationship. And actually, it could have been overdone, but I think it worked really well in the episode. And when they're in the TARDIS and they're, one of them's giving a spiel and the other one interrupts and goes, no, sorry, I shouldn't, you go. Great stuff. Loved all of that. I'm not sure how I feel about how they solved the Flux in the end. How they defeated the Flux. Because essentially what it boils down to is the Doctor lets the Flux wipe out the Cybermen, the Sontarans. She also manages to lead an attack on the Sontarans that makes them vulnerable to it as well, so they get wiped out as well. So the 3 biggest enemies of the Hooniverse, in one way or another, the 3 biggest armies anyway of the Hooniverse, are gone. And we know that the Daleks are back because, hey, we got a preview for the Newsday special and they're in that. But I don't know what state this leaves the universe in. Are they in a weakened position or what? Who knows? It'd be interesting to see if they're just going to go, okay, the whole universe is reset, everybody's back where they were. Or are we going to get a bit of a new status quo, maybe, for the specials? And then there'll probably be a brand new status quo when Russell D. Davies takes over. And then after all of her enemies have been destroyed by the Flux, she then deposits a passenger unit to absorb the Flux into it. Which, as I said, not sure how I feel about. Haven't decided yet. Need more time to think about that one, I think. On the one hand, it's quite quick and feels a little bit easy. But on the other hand, I think it was set up, the passengers' abilities and stuff were set up right from Once Upon Time through to now. I think it probably works okay. And I don't see how else they could have done it. So, like I say, I probably need more time to think about that. But it's okay. And I think the final thing to deal with is the Doctor's memories. Because Azure and Swarm tease her throughout with the Fob Watch, with all of her memories. And they, threaten her with erasing some of it, and then they bring it back and erase some of it and bring it back, so it has that capacity. And then when they take her to Atropos to sacrifice her to their saviour, Time, this is the point where also the other 2 Doctors have defeated the Flux, and Time says that the Flux has been defeated. And I think because his disciples have failed him, he kills them instead of the Doctor and takes them as a sacrifice, defeating the enemy. The enemy that I would have liked to have seen more of, possibly, and especially would have liked to have known more about why they're doing what they're doing. But we'll leave that aside for the moment. And says to the Doctor, I'm going to reconstitute the three of you into one, send you back. But you can't outrun me forever. Time will catch up with you. Your time is coming to an end. Which feels, again, a little bit... Chibnall does tend to replay a lot of classic moments from previous eras. And it's fine to do that occasionally. I think it's nice, a line here, a reference there. It's nice. But I do feel he does it a little bit too much. And this, once again, feels very similar to the, hey, 10th Doctor, your time is coming to an end. There'll be 4 knocks. But this time it's just like a vague, your time is coming to an end. And that's what the Doctor's left with. And it is hinted that it's her regeneration. That's what they're talking about, because they say he then says something like, no generation lasts regeneration lasts forever. Oh, by the way, the time has turned into the Doctor with the dark coat at this point, so it just appears as it wants to whatever's relevant to who it's talking to, I guess. I'm interested to see if time will come back again. This I don't know, embodiment of time, will that come back again? But the Doctor picks up the fob watch, takes it back to the TARDIS, and then at the very end decides to drop it into the TARDIS and says to the TARDIS, hide this for me. So puts it into the console, drops it down a hole in the console, hide this from me, don't let me where I won't find it. And then at the very end adds in a, unless I really need it and ask you for it. So I don't know. I really hope that's going to be an element of maybe the centenary special. Round out her era. I kind of feel like there wasn't... I would have... Because I get why they don't want her to get all the memories back. I can understand that. But I don't understand why the Doctor would choose not to have the memories back. I think if it had been a decision where she would have had to have made a choice between getting the memories back or the universe ending, she obviously would have chosen saving the universe. Or so getting the memories back or saving the universe, she would have chosen saving the universe. That could have been a way. She might have had to have sacrificed that memories to do that. But she didn't. She still had it. The world universe was saved, and she just chooses not to open it. But it is a temporary thing. She hasn't, cast it out completely. She's just put it somewhere safe in the TARDIS. So it's left there for another occasion. And I do hope that some point in the next year, in these 3 specials, probably the last one, we're going to get the final result of that. There are still so many unanswered questions, though, from this. And some things in there from the series that seem a bit pointless. The whole come and get your human thing from last week, completely pointless. He didn't come. That was it. I mean, it was, pointless. There were a few moments like that. I felt Diane, kind of pointless. And what else was there? I mean, we never found out where Ruth fits in. Again, that might be something for the specials. Is she a pre-Hartnell? Is she Series 6B? We still don't know. I'd like to at least find out that by the end of Chibnall's era, please. Confirm it definitely. Is she pre-Hartnell or is she 6B? Let us know for definite, please, Chibnall. What's going on with Unit? I think we'll find that out in the specials. Yeah, the Serpent. Well, will he be in the specials? Maybe. Maybe he was just left there as a kind of hey, he's there if a future showrunner wants to pick him up. But I really want another episode with him in, and I want to find out what his deal is. I want to find out for definite, again, is he Rassilon or somebody important? Again, check out my theory video. Yeah, let me know. Yeah, and the watch stuff. There's things that they haven't quite wrapped up, and that's fine because there's a whole era left, 3 specials left to go with the era. But I'm still unsure about how it feels as a whole. But I did really enjoy this episode as I was watching it. It was a fun romp. It was pacey. There were some great character moments in it for some of the characters. The Doctor, Yaz had some great moments. Kate Stewart had some nice moments as well, even though there were few and far between. It would have been nice to see her a bit more. Again, hopefully in the specials. But yeah, I enjoyed the ride on this, and I enjoyed the ride for the whole of the Flux. I think it is my favourite series from the Chibnall era, definitely. I just, like I said, does it work as a whole? Kinda yes, kinda no. Yes in some areas, no in some others. What do you think? How did you enjoy Flux as a whole? What did you think of this episode specifically? And what do you think is going to happen in the specials next? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you New Year's... Well, I mean, I'll be making videos between now and then, but for the next Doctor Who review, New Year's Day. See you then.